My name is Claire, and I was dead for 7 minutes. 7 minutes that felt like a lifetime, or maybe like stepping outside of time itself. When my heart stopped, I thought I'd wake up to light, but what I found was silence. Not peaceful silence, a living silence. It wrapped around me, deep and endless, as if the whole universe had stopped breathing. There was no sound, no heartbeat, no color, just stillness. And within that stillness, I felt them. Millions of souls. They weren't screaming, they weren't crying. They were simply there, trapped in a quiet that echoed with regret. In that place, I understood something terrible and beautiful. That silence wasn't punishment. It was the consequence of a life lived without love. Every time we turn away from compassion, we build the walls of our own eternity. When I came back, I brought a truth that still keeps me awake at night. Heaven isn't a place of light. It's a place of love. And without love, even eternity becomes silent. Before I share with you what I saw and heard in those 7 minutes, take a deep breath. Because what I'm about to tell you may shake your soul. Subscribe to Echoes of Eternity, leave a like, and tell me in the comments if you've ever faced something unexplainable. A silence that felt almost alive. When my heart stopped, I didn't feel pain. It wasn't like falling or drifting. It was more like slipping. 1 second, I was surrounded by frantic voices, the sound of machines, the taste of metal in my mouth. And the next, everything fell quiet. It's strange how you can feel silence before you realize you're inside it. At first, I thought it was the hospital. Maybe they had saved me and I was waking up. But then I opened my eyes, and the world I saw wasn't the one I'd left behind. There was no ceiling, no walls, no floor. Just a vast gray horizon stretching in every direction, like mist made of stillness. I tried to speak, but no words came out. I couldn't even hear my own breathing. It was as if sound itself didn't exist there. That's when I noticed the air. It wasn't cold, but heavy, dense, like the weight of unspoken things. And inside that weight, I could feel something moving. Not around me, but through me. It was the presence of others, countless others. I didn't see faces, not clearly, just silhouettes, shadows within the fog. Some stood still, others seemed frozen mid-motion, as if trapped in the memory of what they once were. And every single one of them radiated a kind of sorrow I had never known. Not despair, not anger, just emptiness. The realization hit me slowly. They weren't being punished. They were simply forgotten. By the world, by time, by themselves. Souls who had lived without love, without compassion, without ever reaching beyond their own fears. And now they existed in the silence they had created. As I walked, or maybe floated, I can't really tell, I felt a pull, a soft vibration, like the echo of a heartbeat far away. I followed it, hoping it would lead me to something, anything alive. But the deeper I went, the heavier the silence became. It wasn't just absence. It was memory of every word left unsaid, every kindness withheld, every act of love postponed until it was too late. I wanted to scream, to beg for a sound, a sign, a voice, but there was nothing, only stillness. And in that stillness, a truth began to form. Quiet, but undeniable. We don't just die when our hearts stop beating. We die every time we stop loving. That's when the vibration came again. Stronger this time. A pulse that cut through the silence like a whisper from far away. And I knew, somehow, that something or someone was coming for me. The pulse came again. A soft, steady rhythm cutting through the silence like a whisper in the dark. It wasn't a sound. It was more like a feeling that reached deep into me, calling my attention. And for the first time since I had crossed over, I felt not alone. I turned toward where I thought it was coming from, but the fog never cleared. It only shimmered, like it was alive, vibrating with something sacred and terrifying at once. Then I realized the vibration wasn't outside of me, it was inside of me. It pulsed in my chest, faint but familiar. A heartbeat. Not mine, but one that wanted me to remember I once had one. Every beat seemed to carry words, but not in a language I knew. Still, I understood them. Each pulse said the same thing. Listen. And then, the silence began to change. It was still there, vast and suffocating, but something beneath it started to move. A wind, if you could call it that, began to stir, carrying what sounded like echoes, faint voices, whispers too soft to catch. They weren't crying or screaming. They were praying. I followed the sound, though I couldn't tell if I was walking or floating, drawn by that fragile thread of sound through the void. The deeper I went, the more I could feel their longing. Souls whispering the same thing again and again, as if trying to reach something that could no longer hear them. And then I saw them. Shapes. Human forms, barely visible through the mist, their faces dimly lit by a cold gray glow. Each one stood completely still, mouths open as if they were speaking, but no sound came out. It was agony without motion, pain without expression. And yet I could feel what they wanted to say. They weren't being punished. They were begging for memory, to be remembered, to not be erased by the silence they had created. I felt something break inside me. Fear, sorrow, maybe recognition. Because somewhere in their emptiness, I saw myself. The times I had chosen pride over kindness, comfort over compassion, silence over love. And for a moment I wondered if I belonged among them. Then the heartbeat came again, or louder, closer, and the gray around me began to tremble. The mist started to thin, and through it I saw light. Faint at first, like the glow of a candle in fog, but it was growing, approaching. It wasn't harsh or holy. It was gentle, warm, patient, alive. And somehow I knew it wasn't there to judge me. It was there to show me. That's when I heard it for the first time. The voice behind the heartbeat. It didn't speak through words. It spoke through truth. And what it said would change everything. The light grew stronger, not blinding, but enveloping. It didn't come from a single direction. It came from everywhere. It poured into the gray like dawn breaking after 1,000 years of night. For the first time, I could feel warmth on my skin. It wasn't the warmth of the sun, it was the warmth of being seen. The silence around me began to dissolve, and with it, the fear that had held my chest captive. Then I heard it again, that pulse. Only now it wasn't a whisper. It was a voice. Not a man's voice, not a woman's voice. It was everything, like the sound of time itself remembering how to speak. And when it spoke, it didn't echo in the air, it echoed inside me. Do you remember the first time you loved without wanting anything in return? The words weren't a question. They were a key, unlocking something I had forgotten long ago. I saw flashes of my own life, not as memories, but as living scenes unfolding before me. I saw my mother's hands holding mine when I was a child. The night I comforted a friend who had lost her father. The stranger I helped on a rainy street. Each act glowed with light, rising into the air like fireflies in the dark. Then the scenes began to fade, replaced by others. Moments when I stayed silent instead of forgiving, when I turned away from someone who needed me, when I chose pride over peace. And with every image, the light flickered weaker until it almost vanished. I fell to my knees, or at least it felt that way, and I cried out, "Why are you showing me this? Who are you?" The voice replied softly, but it carried power that seemed to shape the very air. "I am not here to punish you, Claire. I am the echo of what you became and what you can still be." The light swirled around me like a tide, showing more faces. People I'd known, loved, hurt, or forgotten. Some smiled, some turned away. Each one radiated a truth I could no longer hide from. Love was never lost, it was stored. Every act of kindness left a mark that could never fade. Every rejection of love left a shadow that could never be ignored. Tears streamed down my face, not from fear, from recognition, because I finally understood that the silence wasn't a place. It was memory, the sum of everything we chose not to give. "The silence you saw," the voice said, "is not where souls are sent. It is what they build." And with that, the light pulsed again. So bright, it became all I could see. And for the first time since dying, I felt alive. The light consumed everything, not with fire or judgment, but with gentleness, like the sea pulling back the tide. I felt myself being lifted, as if the air itself carried me upward. The gray was gone, the silence was gone, and in its place, there was music. Not like any melody I'd ever heard, no instruments, no rhythm, just waves of sound made of emotion. It was as if every heartbeat, every act of kindness, every whispered prayer had become a single song. And for one perfect moment, I was part of it. No fear, no time, no pain. Just belonging. Then it stopped. The warmth began to fade, and I felt gravity again. The weight in the body, the weight of breath. I gasped. Air rushed into my lungs like water breaking through a dam. A sharp pain stabbed through my chest, and the world came flooding back. Blinding lights, shouting voices, hands pressing on my ribs. "She's back!" someone yelled. Machines beeped, my heart was beating again. But I wasn't the same. I lay there, tears streaming down my face, unable to explain what I had just seen. How could I? How could I tell them that death wasn't darkness? It was reflection. That the silence wasn't a void, but a mirror showing us the love we gave or refused to give. Days passed before I could speak about it. But when I finally did, I said only this. I didn't see fire. I didn't see angels. I saw silence, and it was made of everything we forget to feel. I realized that eternity isn't something waiting after life. It's something we build with every heartbeat, every choice, every act of love or indifference. Heaven and silence both start here, inside us. So now, every morning when I wake up, I listen, not to the noise of the world, but to that faint, rhythmic pulse, the heartbeat that once called me back. It reminds me of the message I heard in that place, the one I was sent to share. Love while you still can. Speak while your voice still carries warmth. Forgive before time takes your chance away. Because one day, the silence will come for all of us, and the only thing that will echo beyond it is the love we left behind. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Echoes of Eternity. Leave a like and tell us in the comments if you've ever felt close to that silence, or if someone you know has lived through a near-death experience. Your story might awaken another soul before the silence does.